You and we back,
Back again.
Yeah. After all the football is now over, right? Yeah,
Yeah. After
yeah,
after a month of dual action.
yeah. That ain't something to write actually, but we gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it with lots of football. A month of lots of football.
Correct.
Yeah, has now come to end. Wives, girlfriends are going to be extremely happy because we don't have to watch all the games anymore. So yeah, good times, right? Time to spend some time with the family. That's it.
No more getting
All right.
cussed.
Yeah, no more getting cussed, right? So what's up, man? So before we start off, let's go with the pause. What you have for the pause there?
Um, something a little do say.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're big man, cause I
Nah.
yeah
We see the chaser, man.
yeah yeah. Some
So hard
fruit,
chaser, man.
some fruit. Yeah, that's what we
Hard
doing
chaser,
today.
the man going with it.
Hard chaser today.
Let's say
Hard
pull out
chaser.
frosty blue waters.
Hey, you're lucky you ain't get at her. You're a gal little oasis. So consider yourself lucky that you ain't get at. Right? But anyway, yeah, it may not be the same, but hey,
Salute.
yeah. Well, all right. We gotta get down to business. So we talk
Mm-hmm.
about Euros, right? In terms of the final. What were your thoughts on the overall final?
The overall final was England played like their usual self for the tournament, which was uneventful, unimaginative, very boring football. To me, they were too defensive. You had Harry Kane playing anywhere between midfielder and defender, and not his natural position of a striker. Um, they, they, I guess I can say that was Gareth Southgate tactic for the whole tournament, and he didn't. There was no change for the final. You would expect that they would have probably tried to run at Spain, but I guess they were trying to not get um, not get devoured by Yamal and Nico on the wings. It just so happened that that was one of the goals, Yamal to Nico. But I mean, the better team won, which was Spain. So hats off to them.
I mean, yeah, England did what we expected, right? They played within themselves for the majority of the game. After they conceded the goal, they had a little bit of momentum there. Scored, Palmer scored a great goal, right? When he finally got the opportunity to play, right? And
Finally,
after that, they just went back in the shell. It was like, hey, we score a goal. Let's go back to our defensive tactics, and yeah, they basically let Spain get back control and back into the game, and Arasapa basically poisoned them. So, I mean, there's not much more to say. Agent 007, Phil Foden, right? 7 games, 0 assists, 0 goals. Um, Disappointing again. Jude was active. What wasn't really effective. He had that one play where he shielded the ball and turned and shot with his left foot.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of his more highlighted type plays. But most of England plays were defensive. Kyle Walker. I heard a rumor about Kyle Walker. Well, not a rumor. Is persons have saying that Kyle Walker isn't actually that good of a defender. And
He's not a
when
good
you
defender.
watch certain things, you could kind of understand where people are coming from, right? That he looks great when it's a sprint. When he's sprinting and stuff, it looks great. But when it's actually finding the space or marking the space or the right person, he doesn't seem to have that. I don't know if to say anymore or does have lapses of concentration. Because yeah, he looked great when he was sprinting. It had a couple of times Nico had him panicking, but Outside of that, for the goal itself, he came totally out of position to come towards Yamal and yeah, Nico had all the time and space in the world to shoot. So I could understand that. There could also be better England fans saying those things too. So you could take that with a grain of salt. But ideally, that was the game. Spain dominated without even having to be overly dominating in that game.
Yeah, yeah, it was it. Spain had what most of the possession. It
Yeah,
was like
by far.
66 to 34 in terms of possession, 554 to 294 passing. Yeah, Spain basically controlled the game, and they didn't. It wasn't a matter of them being overly aggressive or anything like that. They more or less was in a calm knock. It was like almost like a training ground kind of preseason kind of warm up kind of game. They basically knocked the ball and took their chances when it is they had the opportunities. And when Palmer scored to equalize it, there really wasn't much of a change in terms of Spain's tactics and also their aggression. They continued doing what they were doing, and Cucurella got the ball out wide, played it into Ozilbad, and that was it. It was a question of offside, but it really wasn't for a final. It really wasn't that exciting. I kind of bep out pathway in between all kind of thing because it was just boring. I mean, boring. No, not boring on Spain's part. It was boring in terms of England because England didn't come in with a, all right, let's win kind of attitude. They came in with a, all right, let's not concede and see how best we could manage the game. And when it comes down closer, maybe try something. And they basically did what they've done all tournament in the sense of they managed the game, and when they concede, that is when they turned it up, got their equalizer, and just revert back to that let's manage the game kind of scenario. And nobody want to see that though. You have quality players in the squad. You have pedigree in the squad. Harry Kane is top scorer, was top scorer in Bundesliga last year. Jude was a heavy goal scoring threat for Real Madrid. Saka, Foden as well too has been exciting and very much an offensive threat for City. So you have Palmer that was wasting on the bench for majority of the tournament. Manu, he had a bad game yesterday. He was literally not in the game, but you still have players that could have provided creativity for the team, and you just didn't see it at all throughout the whole tournament, and even worse yet yesterday. So yeah, I mean they deserve to lose as far as I'm concerned. And in terms of what you say about Kyle Walker, if you want to say that his technical ability as a defender isn't really there, he relies mainly on his athletic ability. Maybe, I mean, you can say that for most of the defenders nowadays, but he does what he does well, you know. I mean, there would be he's one of the few defenders that could say that he kind of holds Vinny, who's basically one of the faster wingers in the world right now. So I wouldn't say he's a bad defender per se, but he's just using his strengths to his advantage basically, and his strength is basically his speed or his athleticism. So I wouldn't say he fools anybody in terms of being a defender. He's just using his abilities to maximize on the position that he plays.
I mean, I could agree with that. As I say, that could just be England, bitter England fan just coming up with something being a problem because some of them say Saka was the reason why they lost. It will always come down to the more melanin enriched persons within the squad. Yeah, to have be them being the problem.
But was it a melanin infused person who scored?
Yes, you could. Yes,
Palmer has
yeah,
Afro
yes, you can.
roots. So I
Yeah, you
mean,
can. But wasn't it not a melanin infused individual who set up the goal? Too? with us?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also that same melanin infused who set up the goal, he actually saved the tournament in the 90th plus minutes. I think it was the round of 16.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, with the bicycle kick. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, basically, it was the melanin infused who actually saved the tournament for the team because they did more majority or the bulk of the offensive load.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you 100%.
I
But
mean,
again,
yeah, go ahead.
better English persons and then showing the real self. So I mean, I'm not really too bothered about what is being said, right? But I would agree with what you said in terms of Kobe having a bad game yesterday. I think the occasion got him because things that you usually see him do very well, passing, being able to shield off the ball, using his strength, those kind of things wasn't really to show yesterday. I don't know if it was playing against a much better midfield because the Spanish midfield, Ruiz, Rodri, and Olmo is nothing to sneeze at because
True.
they will be on him, right? And then of course the centre backs will be pushing up too, so you don't really have much space as a midfielder to have that time to be able to do what you need to do. I wouldn't put that on as like a blip on his resume. I would just put it down to youth. This is the first time being here. Yes, we could use the example of Yamal and we could use the example of
I
Nico
mean,
and
Yamal had his little problems earlier on in the game as well too. He looked a
yeah.
bit overwhelmed, if you want to say that. But I guess he settled along.
Yeah, well, I mean, you would. I think the what Yamal and Nico would have as an advantage is that the persons that they're playing with too and how they play. I think they have more of an identity. So
Right.
even if you are not playing well, they kind of have a backup or someone close to you that you don't have to do anything extensive to try and settle yourself. So you pass the ball short, you get touches, you get that accustomed feeling to it compared to England that would be under pressure. And when they finally get the ball aside, they're trying to, well, they didn't go long much at all yesterday, but they slowed down the game to the point where it was easy for Spain to basically hustle them off the ball. So I guess you feel a bit more rushed there, and if you're nervous, that's just going to add on to the additional issues that you're having for the game. One person had a shout out, even though I think that they were somewhat at fault for the goal. I had a shout out Cucurella, man.
So how do
Cucurella,
Cucurella?
Cucurella. Yeah. I'd give him me props for the tournament. He has been much better than he has ever been for Chelsea. Much better. Right. The reason why I say that I think that he's at fault for the goal is that the one time that Saka got space was when he got that space to be able to start the play for that goal that England scored. And that was because Cucurella pushed up to basically try and get the ball. And I think he was either shield off of it or he ended up slipping when the ball got shielded or something like that. And then they passed out to Saka and Saka he was like, yeah, but free space finally. Woo. And yeah, he just started to gallop down that line. So, I mean, I'm not going to put that as a blip on his Euros either because that was the one little fault
Mistakes
that he
happen
made.
during the games.
Yeah, that was the one little fault, and other than that, he has been very good for this tournament.
Agreed.
I would add on to that too. Danny Carvajal was great again. Somebody who's played very well, and for some reason is always overlooked. Because that pass that went to Yamal before he actually passed it off to Nico was actually Danny did a one-time dink, right? That actually floated across and went straight to Yamal, right? So it kind of caught England off guard with that one-time pass. So again, overlooked, but hey, I had to give him a shout out too. He had a great tournament. In fact, I don't think it had anybody in Spain who actually had a bad tournament. I think the entire team played extremely well.
Morata?
Yeah, Morata didn't score, but Morata hold up plays, hustling, all those
Created
things that you
chances.
expect
I mean, he
from.
should have put away a couple, yes, at least one yesterday because he had a few
Right.
chances to bury at least two.
Yeah.
And
So
he was his typical
hmm,
miss five, maybe score one. He didn't score any, but he didn't play bad, as you said. You know, he was within the flow of the game. Um, he was where they needed him to be, and he was a good captain for the team, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As I say, I don't think I had anyone who played badly for Spain at all. Because even when Rodri went down injured, and I remember messaging it is that don't get tapped with Superman, he ain't no slouch.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as he came on, he got a breakthrough to in the middle of the field, and then a foul, and one person got a card. I forgot who did the foul. But you basically didn't miss Rodri. It wasn't a big miss to say,
Wasn't a fall
hey,
off.
Rodri was there. Yeah, the level stayed at the same, even though it was different players. So yeah, Spain was overall the best team for Euros, and yeah, kudos to them, man. Dominated the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, can't say nothing else to that, you know. Best team won because they were the best team in the tournament as it progressed. They showed to be the top team in the tournament because they were consistently good. They didn't really concede much goals. Probably like I think the average was like about 14-4 and about 5 against. Something
Yeah,
along
something.
that lines. So yeah, they did their thing. So
Yeah, kudos to them, man. I do have one complaint though. How how did Rodri get player of the tournament? Somebody please need to explain this to me because as far as I remember, he didn't get any player the
man of the
MVP
match.
of any of the game, man, he match of the game, right? I could be wrong. If he got any, what would
It was
have
probably like
been
one, if any.
if any, right? Right. Had the same amount of goals as Danny Carvajal, right? I'm not saying that he didn't play well, as I say, everyone played well. But how did he get that over? Okay, Yamal got young player of the tournament. How did he get that over Nico Williams? How did he get that over Olmo? How did he get that over Ruiz?
I would say if there was to be another player to get it, and especially given the circumstance that how his tournament went, would have been Olmo because he was not a starter. The times he did come in, he came in and scored. He created a lot of chances as well too, and he played very well in the role that he was given. So, and this is nothing against Rodri because Rodri has been solid basically for the team in the middle, but there has, if you want to say they had a, I mean, I just pointed out the goal difference, but that could also be chalked up to the defenders, Nacho and them, the centre backs. Um, yeah, it was kind of tough seeing Rodri actually being, because it's like what was he measuring stick then against anybody else, you know? And especially even if you want to say you're looking at the winning team, who was he better than on that list of Spain players? You know, so I mean, for as good as Yamal played, Yamal was not the best player on the squad. He was the best young talent in the whole tournament. Yes, Nico had his. Nico had very good games. I wouldn't. I think probably his worst game probably wouldn't would have been the first game, and even that game he wasn't bad. You know, he just didn't really create much or anything like that. He I guess he was just first game nerves or whatever the case is, and he eventually was basically a cut above the rest. But to me, almost should have, and I don't like the player, just personal reasons, but he played very good, and he was very instrumental to a lot of what it is they did. So I I I don't know what was your reasoning behind it. Maybe you if I could state. I know you
Yeah,
have
no,
your
no, no.
theories.
Yeah, no, no, no. You know what my theory is, and I'm saying it out here, and I've been playing and wrong. They must find some way to put EPL inside the dance. Must find some kind of way. Because I'm not saying that Rodri played badly, but for him to be the player of the tournament, nah.
Yeah,
Nah,
suspect.
He'll be up there. He'll be up there,
Yeah,
but
he's
not player
top
of the
five, I
tournament.
guess. If you want to
Yeah,
say that.
I can say top five, but definitely not player of the tournament. Definitely, they had to find some way to say that EPL is there because all of a sudden, and we'll talk about that a little later. All of a sudden, now he's a Ballon d'Or candidate. It's like, where that come from?
I mean, he was, he was like about fifth or something. So after Kane, I believe it was. I think it was Vinny, Jude, Kane, I think Foden, and then Rodri.
Tony
Something like
Cruz was in there too.
who?
Cruz was in there too.
Yeah, Cruz as well too. So he was probably like somewhere about fifth or sixth or somewhere around there. Latest standings, I saw he kind of get jumped up to like about third.
Bruh.
Coinkydink, I maybe not.
Bruh.
But we go talk about
We will talk about that after, yeah,
we talk about
because
Ballon a little.
yeah,
Hey,
we can
no,
talk about that after.
let's
We will talk.
yeah,
Let me move on to the next topic because we're going to end up sticking on that same topic.
yeah.
Yeah. So you move on. On to this. On to Copa 2024.
You start off now because
Well, you know me, I'm not one for staying up overly late. So I was like, yeah, the final going to be early. I'll take it in 8 o'clock. Should be back in my bed by 10. I works out fine. So
good to
then he
get
had
up.
delayed. All right, it's delayed. Security issues. All right, cool, no problem. They has delayed more. Like, okay, this getting a little ridiculous now. Then they delayed even further. It was like an hour and a half later is when the game decided to start. I was not impressed. I don't know how the US is going to host the World Cup if they can't even do a Copa properly, right? Um, it's gonna that is a little scary. Also, it had the other incident that happened over the weekend that I don't want to go into because we talk more football. So all these security issues that coming up, yeah, looking a little shaky for the World Cup that I might want to attend.
Yeah.
looking,
As it's on this hemisphere.
yeah, looking a little shaky, looking a little shaky. But onto the game itself, um, I think Colombia was like the big bad wolf. They huff and he puff, but they just couldn't blow the house down.
You know what I win.
Yeah, they were out to win. They looked pretty decent. Shout out to James, got player of the tournament. That's a player for a tournament. See how he is do it, Euro. See how he is do it, UEFA. Just saying. But yeah, he got player of the tournament. He looked pretty decent in the final. But yeah, it never seemed that Argentina seemed bothered. Like Colombia was the fly and they were the guys like, or they move now, God. Or they just harassing man. Because I mean, Cordoba had a nice volley that came off the outside of the post
Mhm.
in the first half. As I say, they had some attempts from far outside that looked okay, but it was non-target. But to be quite honest, the better opportunities fell to Argentina, and Argentina to me didn't even look like they came out a second game. It was unfortunate what happened with Messi and his ankle. Um, it happens, right? At least nobody could come out and say, "Well, you get a bad tackle and somebody trying to injure him because it's his last game and he's gonna retire and all this stuff." Yeah, they're saying that out of bad mind, but you know, generally, yeah, I don't really find that Colombia was much of a match. I was expecting it to be a lot closer than it looked to me. And ideally speaking, shout out to Martinez too, man. Top scorer of the tournament. Yeah, it looked pretty good every time he had the chance. Well, every time he came off the bench, because every time he started, he wasn't looking as good. So yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts on it?
Um, I'll start with the final, then I'll go to the tournament as a whole because I spoke about that already as well. The final to me, Colombia looked as good as they have all tournaments. They eventually became the de facto dark horse because I didn't have them on my radar. You didn't have them on your radar as well. And they just kind of surprised everybody out the gates. They had their chances, and like I messaged you last night and say they needed to at least put away one early to kind of get a monkey off the back, I guess, because it is the big bad Argentina that they were playing. Colombia haven't been in a final for over a decade, so they needed to get that goal. They didn't, um, but credit to them because it's not to say that they changed anything for the final because they were playing Argentina. They went at them, they took it to them, and for the most part, they had the pressure on them. But like I was telling some brethren last night, is that Argentina had the quality coming off of the bench. When you talk about Martinez, who's a top striker in Italy, and they have other players like Paredes and all these other players and things, Lascelles and stuff coming off the bench as well too. And Colombia's. I'm not saying these guys aren't good, but when you match name for name, when you starting 11 gets winded, especially in a humid Miami, and you have to rotate and bring in the players off the bench. The quality, I mean, Colombia still had their chances from the guys that came off the bench, but Martinez just needed one or two, and that one or two he put it away. So I mean, all credit to Argentina. They won. They were the better. I wouldn't say they were the better. I wouldn't say they were the better. Well, I guess they were the better constructed team. But in terms of play, they didn't. To me, Argentina didn't really play anything good for the whole tournament. And even talking to a guy who's an Argentina fan and all too, he was like, kind of, he almost he looked off after the first half because he said they ain't looking like how they're supposed to look. So I guess it was a kind of like a England France kind of scenario. Whereas that they're the big bad team of the tournament, but when you see them play, they're not living up to the expectations that you have for them personally. So I mean they won, they were the better team, they got the goal. That's what counted. Goals win, and that was it. But as going back to the tournament, and this is not a good look for the US hosting World Cup. Yes, we know US hosted World Cup back in the 90s, but it's a new era. It's a new era, and things are looked at a lot differently now. And this is not a good look, especially a city like a city and a stadium like the Miami Stadium, where you're thinking it's more modernized and everything, and you expect that a certain level of quality and security as well too. Like you have men jumping through the vents to get into the stadium. Like what is that? You have fans rushing through the gates, and there's no security at the booths or at the entrance of the gates. So it's like, what were you thinking? I mean, you had to know. And there's our next thing too, is that all these things happen, right? And the media coverage, the media station that was carrying the tournament, you heard the announcers kind of downplaying it and not really talking to the gravity that it was. Because had it been a tournament hosted in Brazil or Argentina or Mexico, Colombia, Paraguay, whoever, some of the other South American, Central American countries, the conversation would have been a whole lot different, especially if that nation was carded to host the World Cup as well. So, I mean, the US needs to review this, not just the finals. I talk about the tournament as a whole. FIFA as well needs to look at it and really ask the question as, have we done the right thing? Yes, we understand the US has certain this is what I'm looking for, right? There's a certain air about them, for want of a better term. But we 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 as fans, as sports fans, as football fans, expect a certain level when it comes to international tournament, and that's what this was. This was an international tournament, and the quality of the pitch was garbage. How it is you could have a adjusted field size in a first world nation, right? An adjusted field size that is smaller than regulation. That's crazy. Had it been as I said, another country, another South American country hosting this Copa America, and were carded to host the World Cup, this would have been big news. This would have been a tragedy, but it wasn't because the American media covered it. Covered it. It was a tournament hosted by America, and they just kind of whitewashed it. They kind of washed it under the carpet. So my thing is something is they have 2 years. A lot could be done in 2 years. We saw when some Qatar, but they right now I don't think they're ready to host a World Cup. Honestly, they may have some of the stadiums and stuff, but the stadiums are designed for their kind of football and their kind of sporting events. So, and not really for a football/soccer tournament. But that is just my thoughts. I don't know what you have to say.
No, I agree. It's not a good look at all, and it kind of is being swept under the rug because it's the US. You can remember all the coverage that time even Qatar got when it was World Cup. How they say be this World Cup and all these other things that was happening, and it came out to be one of the best, if not the best. So it's kind of being swept on the rug. I remember Brazil on too, or the stadiums were falling apart and how they was using or the type of labor they was using and all that kind of drama. But I guess you'll see what happens. I for one would like to go to finally reach to see how World Cup is, but if things not looking like it, is any better security wise, maybe. But on that TV, man, because I ain't trying to be in no drama because the US has a lot of drama going on right now, and I don't know how it will be later on. Right? I'm really not trying to end up being a statistic in the US. So outside of that. Overall for the tournament, well, I picked Argentina to win because to me it was obvious. The run that they had was kind of soft. And to me, there was no real challenge for them there. I do think, though, that when the World Cup comes around, that there won't be as much as a force. Even if Messi decides to play on, he will be 2 years older. You could already see, again, he's not a bad player, obviously. He still has the mental to be a good player, but he doesn't have the quickness of movement as much. I saw a lot more plays where he was getting caught up to, even before he had the ankle injury. He's being caught up to his dribbles wasn't as effective. It's basically almost the same thing that you're seeing with Ronaldo, except it's not as pronounced because hey, it's Ronaldo, so you don't just push that to the media all the time, right? Um, Reason why I would say I think they will have struggles in the World Cup is Di Maria retiring. Di Maria to me is a huge player for Argentina. I don't think anyone else outside of Messi, and when I say Messi at that time, he would be older, so I doubt he would be able to be as effective. He was a huge playmaker that made things a lot easier for Messi when it comes to playmaking. And missing him, who's a big time player, was a huge performer in the finals in the World Cup. He had a pretty good game yesterday too. I think that'll be a huge miss for that team. Um, and we'll see how it goes from there. I mean, they do have some decent pieces up front still with Martinez and Alvarez. Um, the midfield will be mostly the same, but as I say, that creative element that you'll get there from Di Maria, I think that'll be a huge miss. I don't know who will be able to cover that. But yeah, I also had to give out a shout out to Emmy, man. Give him some props, man. I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of the guy, but for Argentina. You man just on he's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
he's just that
kudos, kudos.
yeah, he's just that dude,
He's
man.
annoying as hell, but
Yeah, but the man
yeah,
just even he having from since the World Cup to now, he's having a fantastic time with the national team in terms of his performances. Um, not as much for club. I don't think he starts for his club, to be quite honest. Or if he's starting, not often.
wasn't EPL. He wasn't, I think, West Ham one, I know.
Yeah, he's in EPS should be West Ham, yeah. Um, I don't remember him starting in the West Ham games that I've looked at, but regardless of it doesn't matter. His international record right now is ridiculous. So I'll give him a shout out. Yes, he's still annoying. Yes, it's still Argentina. But I'll get them the props for what they're doing right now. Back to back Copas is a big thing. So yeah, let's see what happens in the World Cup. That's what I think is the
I think honestly, I think that's the end of their run.
Mm,
Was a good run. Two Copa Americas and a World Cup. I mean, you can't argue with that. Some people are comparing it to the Spanish run, which was the Euros, the World Cup, and then another Euros. That was
mhm.
2008, 2009, 2010, I believe it was. Or
Yeah.
2008, 2010, and 2012, I believe. That was the time period, I think, for the Spanish run. Um,
Mhm.
I I wouldn't say it was as good. Still have my reservations about that World Cup, but
Don't
as
start
it
the
is in
conspiracy
it,
theories, man.
huh?
Don't start the conspiracy theories, man. Don't start it. Don't start it.
I just say I ain't highlighting it too much. I just say that I have my reservations about it. But as it stands in history books, they won them. So you want to say that a sore front to the finals? Yes, they did. They didn't play any. The, the, the stronger teams were on the other block, which was Colombia, Uruguay, Brazil. Um, so yeah, they won. Cool. But yeah, I think that's the end of the run. Looking at Demirez has said that was his last game. I think Otamendi is another one who's retiring as well too from the national team. We don't know how long again Messi has with the national team. He may stay on for another World Cup. It might be unlikely after this ankle injury as well too. Who knows? So um, yes, they have a nice young group of players, but it's how well they can gel together to make a defensive title run, basically. And we all know how hard that it is, especially in football.
Hey, man,
Um,
that's the time
huh?
period too. That's a big time period. There's a big time gap when it comes to sports. So
Yeah, 2 years
to
is a
repeat
long
World
time. So
Cups. Yeah, to repeat World Cups is not easy. Definitely not easy.
a lot of revolving, a lot of moving parts. So I mean, they would still be a heavy favorite, but it'd be, I personally don't expect them to repeat. I can't remember when last there was a repeat World Cup champion, though,
Like
if
something you had
ever.
to research. I don't think that ever. Don't think that ever happened. But I could be wrong. But I
Yeah, yeah.
already looked into it.
But we'll see what happens in 2 years. But they would be a favorite as per usual.
Cool. No problem. So let me go on to the real meat of the matter, right? Let me go on to the real meat of the matter. So let me start it off properly. Let me start it off properly. Right. Let me get into the discussion here because I really don't get it. I really don't get it. I need it to be explained to me. So what makes someone a Ballon d'Or candidate, right? Is that they have to have a great season, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Right.
Club and
Cool.
country.
Club and country. Provided that there is country, something for country to play for, right? Some days wouldn't have that. So some seasons wouldn't have that. So my question is this: if Haaland, right, last season had won a treble, broke the EPL scoring record,
Hmm.
and didn't get the Ballon d'Or because Messi got it for winning the World Cup, right? For a portion of the season, right? Right. Cool. Okay. Coming to this season now, where talking to the same group of players, City, right? Where Rodri now, they won one trophy. Now I think he had on average somewhere between 18 to 20 goals, somewhere around there. 18, somewhere around there. Could be wrong, right? Won one trophy. Won a trophy for Spain, scoring one goal, if I'm not mistaken, right? How does that person become a candidate for the best player of the season compared to, and I'm using the most outlandish comparison that you can make right now, compared to someone like Danny Carvajal, who won the league, won Champions League, scored in the final, right? And also as part of that same Spain winning side that Rodri had the same amount of goals as Rodri. How
And Super Copa.
uh, Super Copa? I mean, that's a
It's
smaller
still a
trophy.
trophy. It's still a trophy.
Okay, all right, fine. How does that happen? I need to understand that, and before I answer that question, I need to also understand why was it an issue that Vinny and Jude were the top runners for Ballon d'Or, even though Jude did what he did coming the first time into coming into La Liga, winning Champions League, scoring a ridiculous amount of goals from midfield for the first time being in the squad. And of course, Vini having the season that he had. Didn't have the best Copa, still had 2 goals. Didn't have the best Copa, yes. Why was that an issue? Tell me it's not EPL bias or Messi bias, please.
I mean, it honestly would seem that way because you basic you basically had three Madrid players in the top five of the Ballon d'Or rankings, right? For much up until, let's just say, the end of the most regular seasons, most for clubs. Most, so I say at the end of May, you had three Madrid players and and a Bundesliga player in the top five of the votings or the rankings rather for the Ballon d'Or. Now they wanted to say that this tournament, these summer tournaments, were going to be also going to be added towards their grades, I guess, for Ballon d'Or. And yes, granted, Spain is Euro champions, so that would add to Rodri. But as you rightfully said, Danny Carvajal was part of those club winning teams, and he had a huge part in the Champions League final, scoring the goal, right? And and he played a very instrumental part in Spain's as being the second captain for the team for Spain. So why isn't his name talked about more? And for his credit as well too, he was healthy for the majority of the season, unlike previous seasons where he was often injured. So what has Rodri done? I mean, Rodri has been very good for City. I'm not gonna dispute that. But if if you really wanna narrow stuff down, where was Rodri for the the matchup against Real Madrid, where they lost to Madrid in the quarterfinals? The quarters or the round of 16?
Would have been quarters because the semis was against Bayern.
Right. So where were they for the quarterfinals? Where was him for the quarterfinals? What did he do that was spectacular enough that he needed to be registered within the top five or top 10 for the votings, for the rankings? So I don't really see it. I mean, Rodri has been a good player, but I don't see him as a top vote getter for Ballon d'Or. It's very rare midfielder wins it. And most of the time that a midfielder is within the rankings for it, they are a offensive, so an attacking midfielder. Right? Rodri is not really that. He's more box-to-box central defensive midfielder, I guess. So I don't see why his name is so outstanding. I honestly think even though they would have not won their summer tournaments, I still think the race is between Jude and Vinicius. I've also seen Messi's name shot up in the rankings, which is crazy because really and truly, what has Messi done playing in MLS? And no MLS player has ever been, from my knowledge, no MLS player has ever been, whether they come from Europe or not, been in the race for a Ballon d'Or. As a matter of fact, if they go to MLS, your name kind of comes off the list. But that's just me. And even if you want to put him there in terms of he's done something for MLS, the only thing Messi has done for MLS is sell tickets. He won probably one good for nothing cup. He lost another finals. Their team isn't even top in the standings. So what's yes, Argentina won the Copa. Messi didn't play a huge part in that for me. He didn't. He had one goal maybe, I think, and I'm kind of
it's either one or two. It wasn't more than two for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I know he had a goal in the semifinals, but I think he had a goal probably in the first game or two. But Messi has done nothing really and truly to say that winning the Copa adds to his chances of being talked about or ranked in the Ballon d'Or. Makes no sense to me. So, in my opinion, the race is really and truly between Jude and Vinny. Anybody else fighting for third place?
So here's my comment to this, because most persons listen to it will be like, oh, you have Real Madrid bias and you have this, that bias and whatever. But here's my issue with the Ballon d'Or or FIFA best or whatever trophies that they come out with, right? My issue is that the goalpost is always moving. There's never a set standard as into who that person would be.
Right.
So let me use some examples. When Real Madrid won their back-to-back Champions League titles, Casemiro was nowhere in consideration to be one of the players for any one of those titles, right? Casemiro.
And you can argue that his position is similar to Rodri's currently.
Correct. Now, Rodri this season has scored more goals than Casemiro has done in a season, so that's fine. That's cool. But other than that, again, it was back to back, and nothing was given credit for that. I would always go back to the year when Lewandowski broke the record for the German amount of goals scored in a season, right? And for some reason, magically, they decided, hey, we're not going to have one of these trophies because of COVID. So, like, you can't just create a trophy and have it mailed across them, right? And have something done digitally, like we are doing right now. That's not possible, right? Other thing that I'll put again is that there was a year when Snyder was unstoppable. Snyder with Inter won the treble and then got Netherlands to the finals of the World Cup. And people had the audacity to say that Snyder didn't deserve to win at Ballon d'Or when he was attacking midfielder, was key to every single side that he played for. Literally, key as in the ball was going to him all the time to create, right? And then it was like, nah, the person who scored the most goals, even though he didn't win as much trophies doing it, should get that trophy. So that's my issue. Is 1 year it's the most goals. Then it's a next year is if you're a key player. Then the next year is well whatever trophy you won or whatever the case may be. So to me, you can never really know who that
There's no
player.
standard.
Correct. There's no standard. You will never know who that player is going to be. And it is a bit frustrating. And I can now understand why people like Zlatan says that they don't believe in awards because the awards, there's no way to know who can win those awards unless you have the backing of the media, etc., to be able to win those awards. And I do agree because Frank Ribery was also supposed to be able to get one. He didn't get it, even though he won a World Cup, still didn't get it, right? So I don't know, man. It's just frustrating that there's just these PR movements or everything rather than having someone who actually played well and has that results of playing well being members of the Ballon d'Or candidates rather than just, hey, this person happened to be on a winning side. Hey, he didn't lose in a little while. Let's give him it. Because if it was any time to give Rodri that trophy, it would have been the year that they won the treble.
Yeah, but how you gonna give him over Haaland?
Well, I would not give it to him over Haaland, but if it was any year that he had a better argument, it would have been it would
Would have
have been
been that year.
right? But I would not have given it to Haaland. In fact, I'm being real honest right now. I would have given the Ballon d'Or to Haaland, right? Yes, his team wasn't in the World Cup, and I understand that. But if I'm looking at the entire year, if we are negating the year that Messi had with PSG before that World Cup, then you have to negate the time that didn't have the World Cup and wasn't there. Who had the better season? So yes, the World Cup is the hardest tournament to win. I'm not saying no. By the end of the day, that's what 7 games. I think it's 7 games, and I think he had like about 5 or 6 goals, which the vast majority of them were penalties. So again, not knocking goal is goal, but at the same time, there needs to be some criteria to be able to get these trophies. And it doesn't happen with Ballon d'Or alone. It happens with MVP in NBA. It happens with Finals MVP. It always is whoever has the best story is who tends to win these things rather than who is actually the best player.
Um, just touching on that last point to make. Yes, it is a popularity contest, but I think the Ballon d'Or is a lot more skewed and a lot more political than, let's just say, the NBA Finals or the NBA MVP. Now, yes, there's arguments on either side of the coin, but um, I still think the Ballon d'Or argument is always worse because, as you say, they're always moving the goalposts. 1 year is who scores the most. Next year is who has the most trophies. The other year is who was talked about the most, in any tournament or anything played. So it's like what, and every time you ask what is the criteria, nobody has an answer. The answer always changes, and if it is you have, I think this media does vote on it, right?
It's journalists and
The
coach. I think it's coaches
associations,
and journalists, if I'm not mistaken.
right? So I think the arguments from the coaches does be kind of similar, but when you talk to journalists, everybody has a different opinion, and that's, to me, that's a problem. Because if it is, I cover French league, you cover Spanish league, I'm obviously going to vote for the player who's in my league because I see them every week. I might see the others, I might see the Spanish players or the German players, like for Champions League or whatever the case is, or I would follow by the way. But I see, and plus two, you're going to support your home talent, right? Then two, if you open it up to international as well too, if that home talent who plays in a club in whatever European country plays for, let's just say, a South American or another European country, those journalists there are going to vote for them. So it's like, what? So what is the criteria? What boxes needs to be checked for them to qualify to be in the race. And as I say, that is never standard. That it always changes, and it is what it is. So it's a it to me it has become a unnecessary trophy, or useless or priceless trophy, because it has watered down so much, and so much of robberies has occurred over the years, especially when it is you're talking about trophies being awarded to Messi for. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't good, but there were players at certain periods of that time that he would have won that should have been awarded the trophy, in my opinion. Right? Out of the how much did he has? 8 Ballon d'Ors. I think 3 of them should have been awarded. 3 or 4 of them should have been awarded to other players. Okay, you have the one year with Lewandowski, you have the year, I think, with Ronaldo as well too, and a couple others, I believe, too. But
yeah, with Lewandowski, no one got it. So that was a void there.
right, but he still should have been in consideration for that following year. Right?
Depending on how the time period of when they
Yeah,
he could
there was
qualify.
I to include this time period and everything. And if that is the case, the World Cup shouldn't have already been considered because it was outside the time period. Because they always say the voting the time period, it goes to the year. So the year starts over in August, I believe. And World Cup occurred in November. So the World Cup really and truly should not have counted towards the Ballon d'Or voting or ranking. But it was a COVID year, so a lot of things were helter skelter, for lack of a better term. So, but I don't know. To me, you said it a few times, the Ballon d'Or ain't making sense anymore because there's no true measuring stick. The goalpost always moves. It's a popularity contest, and whoever has the best PR team wins. And that is what it's looking like right now with Rodri. His PR team is doing working magic, so he's now pushed into that, I guess, top 3, top 4 rankings of it.
The only thing I could see as a positive for this is that we are seeing someone other than an attacker getting some sort of recognition. That's the only positive that I'm seeing. Because if you really think about it, we have seen Cannavaro got Ballon d'Or in the past. That's never going to happen now, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, Buffon won it once. I need to double check that. Not sure about that,
I
to be
think he
quite
was in
honest.
here. I don't think he won it. I think he was in the top
Okay,
3. I think he won now.
even if there's no way a goalkeeper is going to win Ballon d'Or,
Yeah,
so
he literally has to have a clean sheet. He had an
that
average a
happened.
clean sheet, and that don't happen.
That happened, right? So it's going to be impossible for certain types of players or certain positions to be able to be in the running for a Ballon d'Or. So the only positive I'm seeing with the Rodri thing is that someone other than an attacker is actually getting some level of recognition. Don't think it's the right choice. However, that's the one positive coming out of this, right? And again, people will come and say, "Oh, we biased against Messi," or whatever the case may be. There were Ballon d'Ors that CR7 got that he should not have gotten. So it's not like it only happened with Messi; it happened with CR7 too, where
Agreed.
he wasn't supposed to get it. So ideally speaking, I just think for these awards that there needs to be a set criteria. In fact, there should be a set criteria so that persons within every type of position could get something. I don't think it should just be one award across everyone because it's going to be impossible, especially how persons watch football these days. If you ain't the one tapping in the goals, no matter how much you assist, you are not getting the recognition. So there should be one for best right. To me, it should be for best centre back, best right back, best left
But
back, goalkeeper.
isn't that what like the world best 11 is about, in a sense? And there are awards for best centre back, best defender, best midfielder, best forward, best goalkeeper. So isn't that
I know
what
that
those?
I know they have it for I know there's the world best that comes out. Or I don't think if that's I think that's with also the same organization that does Ballon d'Or, yes. And I do think that you get some level of trophy for it, but I don't think it gets the same recognition as just the Ballon d'Or winner. It should be something that's a bit more prominent,
As
meaning
that,
I should be able to say, let's say, for example, let's say Laporte is the best defender. Second was like you say was Stones, and fourth was like we say that other English guy who had a pretty decent tournament, Gay or Gay or however you pronounce it. So something to that effect where there's still some more recognition for other parts of the game rather than just the attackers who put in the goals, whether it's tap ins or it's bullets from outside or whatever the case may be. I think there needs to be more recognition across the board for football.
but I mean, if they have the awards, it's just a matter of marketing. The Ballon d'Or is just marketed as the top award, But because it's like basically you are the top player above all these other players. So it may the and if that is the case, why isn't the Ballon d'Or? If they have all these other awards, right? The best goalkeeper, the best defender, the best midfielder, the best attacker, right? If they have all these awards, why isn't the Ballon d'Or selected among these group? Because the Ballon d'Or is supposed to be the best of the best, right? And those best positioned players aren't always included in the top 5 of the Ballon d'Or rankings. So if you really want to have a level of a level playing field in a sense, or some kind of measuring stick, if it is you accumulate being the best at your position globally, you automatically are trusted into the Ballon d'Or ranking. And at that point, those are the guys that are selected to choose from in terms of who's really the best player. Because if you can't tell me that the top 5 best players in the world aren't the top 5 best players in their positions. Because if it is, all right, let's just say for let's just go with what we have now as they are ranked, right? Vinicius and would you say Jude is an attacker, or would you say he's a midfielder?
He's a midfielder. He's
Right,
a midfielder.
right. So let's just say they give Rodri the best midfielder award. Because that's what it seems to be heading to.
Right.
Then Jude is automatically eliminated from Ballon d'Or. Should be. Because if he's not the best in his position, how could he be best in the world overall?
Understand what you're coming with there, but if you're doing the same FIFA best or whatever the case may be, the best 11, right?
Mm,
Then for a position like a midfield, which is different from attacking,
right.
because for example, if Harry Kane is the best striker in that starting 11, you can't come and then say,
Vinicius
um,
is a winger.
no, like a Vinicius because he's on wing, because you'll play a formation. You will have a
Right.
formation, right? Because it'll be a 11. But then, as I say, if you put Harry Kane as the winner, as the best striker, then let's say Lewandowski being, let's I just call him, it won't be him. But let's say Lewandowski is the second rank one, then he'll be out of the Ballon d'Or rankings for sure. So the Ballon d'Or ranking should come from, as you say, the best 11. But
Yeah.
still, it will make more spaces for certain types of players because in that best 11, you could include Rodri and Jude, and I could put in a full forward on there, and I could make the three across.
Yeah. I mean, basically what we want is some standardized way of knowing, all right, who is really the best player, and not have to wonder, like, what is the criteria for this year? Is it most goals? Is it goals and assists? Is it because he's popular? Is it because
He
whatever?
donate to charity.
Is it because he scored the most penalties? I mean, give you a criteria that is standard across the board, that can be used every year, so the people could be like, all right, cool. We understand why this person was chosen out of the group. and not that, well, this person win a World Cup, well, this person win a Euros, well, this person win Champions League, well, this person win a double. Because it have a lot of other players along across the world that winning trebles and doubles and all kind of thing. And they are not
True.
included in.
I hear you want to hear the joke that very funny. PSG actually won a local treble this year.
They won a treble.
Yeah, they won 3 trophies this year. They did. So now I was trying to tell you, it's strange. I mean, yes, those trophies won't have the same weight of a Champions League and such. By the end of the day, Fabian Ruiz, who's not considered to be anywhere near running, 3 trophies this year.
I don't know. It's they need to fix it before the fans really get in and say, hey, we don't really care. Because that's at the end of the day, the fans is what really counts. And if it is fans aren't tuning in to view these things anymore, they are losing revenue. So if you really want to keep your revenues up, you'll need to do something that makes sense to the fans. And if fans are complaining, because we are not the only ones complaining. Every year it happens, every year it comes about, and every year people are baffled as to how are these players chosen. Now, yes, they would have the usual fan favorites, but you see names going up and down, and you're like, he just moved up because what? He was part of a team that win something. There are many players who are part of a team that won something, and yes, they may be a starter, but they didn't do anything key to say, well, they stand out on the team. You know, so give us a criteria.
Agreed. All right, I see we crossed over the hour mark. So I think we'll leave it here and we will have plenty more discussions to come going forward, like how the ranking of clubs happen. But we will touch that at another time. So, anyways, Dan, we go link. Peace.
Peace.